December 10th, 2025, and we're reading from the Nectar of Devotion, and we're going to be studying Vibhava Alambana Vishaya. Nima Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskachade Satarane. Thank you for all of you who are here on time. So again, we're looking at Bhakti Ras Amrita Sindhu, the nectar ocean of the taste, the mellow, the juice of devotion. And here we are in the Southern Ocean, the 5 components of rasa: Vibhava, Anubhava, Sattvika Bhava, Vyavichari Bhava, and Sthai Bhava. And Prabhupada's quote that without some mixture of these 5 ecstatic principles, one cannot relish transcendental bliss. So we are in the first wave of the Southern Ocean, and we are looking at part 1. We've divided this first wave into 3 parts because there's 3 parts to Vibhava, and that is Vishaya, Ashraya, and Udipana. So we have 1 part for each. So Vibhava covers chapters 20 to 26 in the Nectar Devotion. Part 1, we're going to be covering chapters 20 to 24, which is equivalent to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 2:114 to 272. So we're going to first look at chapter 20. Chapter 20 has an invocation, a review of the concept of rasa, a brief overview of the southern section, and the basic definition of vibhava. So we read this invocation yesterday when we had a whole overview of the whole Southern Ocean. We're going to go through it again today. Srila Rupa Goswami offers obeisances to Sanatana, who may be either Srila Sanatana Goswami or Lord Krishna. If Krishna, then it is because he is so beautiful and is the killer of Aga, the demon or sins. If Srila Sanatana Goswami, then it is because he was favored by Srila Rupa Goswami, who always served him, and because he destroys sins. It's Srila Raghunath Das Goswami's verse. It's important to note how a verse can be translated to mean more than one thing. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada will translate the same verse in different ways in different places. And so we do well not to say, oh, well, this is the only meanings. This is something we study in hermeneutics, which... Please mute yourself. This is something we study in hermeneutics, which means the science of how to understand the words of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, how often there can be more than one meaning. Okay, what is Vibhava? What is Vibhava? The cause or basis for relishing transcendental mellow, the stimulants. And again, that rasa has something that stimulates it. It exists, but until it's stimulated, it doesn't manifest. You can think about a seed. The seed exists, the nature of the seed exists. If it's an apple seed, the nature of an apple is already present within the seed. If it's a mango seed, the nature of the mango is already present within the seed. But without the sunlight, without the water, without the earth minerals, etc., without the air, the nature doesn't manifest. So Vibhava is what makes it manifest. And Vibhava has 2 main categories, and in one of the main categories, it has 2 main subparts. So alambana is basic. What is the basic stimulus for a rasa? And the 2 subparts are Vishaya, Krishna, the object of affection, Ashraya, the devotee, the reservoir of affection. Prabhupada calls this basic, and Prabhupada calls Udipana impelling. Krishna's qualities, adventures, dress, ornaments, flute, footprints, places, tulsi, devotees, and special days. So we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but we're going to look at it again. So if a devotee has a basic relationship with Krishna in, as say, servitude, so the object of their servitude is Krishna as the master. That's their Vishaya, their object. Their ashraya are other devotees in servitude. Then they have a whole lot of udipanas. They're going to have, Krishna's quality, his dress, his ornaments, and other devotees who are not in servitude are going to be in the category of udipana. So Krishna's parents, Krishna's friends, Krishna's wives, etc., are going to be in udipana. Now, these distinctions are very important because Srila Rupa Goswami is giving us Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as a guidebook to advancing in bhakti. This book is a description of the already perfected devotees, but it is also a guidebook for how to become perfected in bhakti. And when we come to the platform of realizing our basic relationship, our staibhav with Krishna, then one of the ways that we cultivate this is by meditating on Krishna as the Vishaya, on the similar devotees as the Ashraya, and as various things as the Udipana. Now you will notice, and we'll talk about this more later, we'll talk about this more on Friday. We notice that Krishna's qualities are listed in the Udipana, and practically this whole class today is going to be about Krishna's qualities, but today we're looking at the Vishaya. So the understanding is that when we think of Krishna, who is beautiful, then Krishna's qualities are part of the Vishaya. If we're meditating just on Krishna's beauty, that is an Udipana. To think of a material example, if you have a rasa of friendship with a friend, so your friend is your Vishaya, people who are your mutual friends are your Ashraya, your friend's accomplishments are their paraphernalia are going to be the Udipana. Now, let's say your friend is a very great mridanga player. So if you're thinking, oh, can you please mute yourself? If I think, oh, I really am attached to my friend who is a great mridanga player, that's Vishaya. If you're thinking, wow, that mridanga playing of my friend is far out, that's an Udipana, when you're focusing just on the mridanga playing. Okay. Now, all of these manifest at bhava and are generally transcendental. There are also shadows and reflective bhavas, and there are glimpses for sadhakas. So until we have attained the stage of bhava, which can be understood as either the highest stage of sadhana or the lowest stage of sadhya, we will not experience all of these fully. However, we can experience them to some extent, and especially those who are at the platform of please mute yourself. Okay, who is it that has not muted themselves? And let's see if I can mute you. Maybe Sarvani and Shiva Sudha, would you please find out who's not muted themselves and mute them? Thank you. So Raganuga sadhana, or spontaneous practice, can start, generally it starts, Prabhupada says, at the end of anartha nivritti. So that means a person in nistha, ruchi, and ashakti is going to be experiencing all of these in a transcendental way to some extent. But even those who are at not at the platform of nishtha can still experience glimpses of these or shadows and reflections of these. And the English terms that we're going to be using for these are basic connection, stimulants, voluntary expression, involuntary expression, various emotions, and taste. And so right now we're looking at the stimulants. So we're in the category of alambana, Vishaya, the object of love, Krishna. We had the question yesterday as to in what rasas is Krishna not the Vishaya, and that was what I forgot to mention yesterday was disgust. In the secondary staibhav of disgust, Krishna is never the Vishaya, and in some subcategories of anger, Krishna is not the Vishaya. There may be some others, but those are the only ones I can think of right now. Okay, Krishna as the Vishaya, the object of love. So this is what we're focusing on today. Today is going to be entirely on this. So Krishna. Now, as we're going through these different categories, I want you to think about which of them specifically is a stimulant for your service, because then we're going to be talking about that in breakout groups. Okay, going to chapter 21. So here in chapter 21, there's 30 of Krishna qualities explained with evidences as part of understanding Krishna as the Vishaya of Alambana of Vibhava. So Krishna as the Vishaya. So that can be Krishna, obviously as Krishna, in his Swarup, disguised and undisguised. So sometimes Krishna is undisguised. Oh, there's Krishna. Sometimes he's disguised as when he pretends to be a boatman for the boat Leela. And other forms, like expanding as the cowherd boys and calves, where it didn't look like it was Krishna. So in all of those cases, Krishna is the Vishaya. Okay, so what are we going to be looking at as the Vishaya? We're going to be looking at the qualities of Krishna as components of Vishaya, the object of love. 50 qualities that are available to jivas, 5 extra qualities in Shiva, 5 extra qualities in Vishnu, 4 extra qualities only manifest in Krishna, sweetness of pastimes, sweetness of devotees, sweetness of the flute, sweetness of his form in Dwarka, Mathura, and Puri. Krishna as the Vishaya, also Krishna's personality, Dhirodhata, Dhiralalita, Dhirapasanta, Dhirodhata. These are all the topics we're going to be covering today. It's a lot. Krishna as the Vishaya. Krishna without 18 faults, and 16 of them as transcendental virtues, and with 8 auspicious qualities. And as we mentioned before, the qualities can function in 2 ways. So Srila Jiva Goswami, this is his commentary in 2.123. So if you think Krishna who has beautiful limbs, that's Alambana Vishaya. If you think Krishna's limbs, oh, look at Krishna's hand, then that's Udipana. Okay? So again, for a basic idea, my friend who's a wonderful mridanga player, that would be the Vishaya of your Staibhav. Oh, look at the wonderful mridanga playing of my friend. That's an Udipana of your Staibhav. Okay, so we have this list of the qualities shared with all living beings. What's nice about this list is applies to all of us as jivas. And when we realize ourselves, we realize that we have these qualities, that we are all beautiful, auspicious, pleasing, effulgent, fluent, learned, grateful, grave, forgiving, religious, heroic, compassionate, gentle. All these qualities are also our qualities that we have with Krishna to a minute degree. Sometimes Prabhupada says the first 55 qualities, generally says 50. Then we have another 5 qualities that are also manifest in Lord Shiva and in Lord Vishnu. These are changeless, all cognizant, ever fresh. Now, please note all cognizant here. The jiva is not all cognizant. Even a liberated jiva is not all cognizant. And I was just in an in-depth discussion of this point with some devotees in Cincinnati, Ohio, in America, that don't expect guru to be all cognizant. Those are qualities only of Krishna, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu. Then qualities that also Narayana manifests: inconceivable, powerful potency, uncountable universes generating from his body, original source of all incarnations. Now, this is interesting. This is shared with Vishnu. So, this is something that we should not argue about. If people want to say Vishnu supreme, whatever, just you can present the Shastric evidences for Krishna's true Bhagavan Swayam, but don't waste your time arguing. Giver of salvation, attractive liberated souls, and then qualities that are only manifest in Krishna. Now, these qualities must exist in all of Krishna's expansions, but they never manifest them. And you can think of this fact just like if you have a job. So when you're at your job, you don't manifest the qualities you manifest at home. You have them, but you're never going to show them. So Lord Vishnu does not show these qualities, although he actually has them. Wonderful pastimes, wonderful devotees, wonderful flute, wonderful beauty. And finally, there's covered and uncovered. So with and without dress, and dressed in disguise like a woman, or we talked about being disguised as a boatman. Okay, we're going to now take a dive into these qualities. We are going to be going through these very, very fast. We are going to be going through these very, very fast because of the time constraint. And as we go through them, I want you to be thinking about which of these qualities especially attract you. So if you can be making some notes of at least 5 of your favorite qualities as we go through this. Beautiful bodily features: face like the moon, thighs like elephants' trunks, arms like pillars, palms like lotus flowers, chest like a doorway, hips like dens, and the middle of his body like a terrace, like a patio, like a balcony. Auspicious. 32 auspicious symptoms of the parts of his body, auspicious lines on his hands and feet. There's a whole science of understanding different bodily features in terms of auspiciousness. Very pleasing, Ruchira. So not only is he beautiful, but his beauty is very pleasing. It looks like a lotus flower in many parts of his body. Again, these are qualities that we also have as jivas. How wonderful. Krishna says that we should relish and rejoice in ourself, that when we see ourself, we'll think there's nothing more to be attained than this. Effulgent. Effulgent. So Prabhupada talked about his disciples as being bright-faced. When we are in touch with Krishna, we're bright, and Krishna is the most bright. So the luster of his jewels can defeat the luster of his sun. The luster of his jewels are brighter than the sun, but compared to Krishna's luster, they look just like stars. Very strong. Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill. Always youthful. All right? And it's mentioned in Bhakti Rasamrita 22163 that in Kaishora, the shelter of all rasas is the best, and that all the qualities of the various sthai bhavs are included in Madhurya bhav, but the other ages are more suitable for the other rasas, and we'll talk about this. We'll bring this up several times, but that his uh, childhood, Kumara, is most suitable for parental love. His boyhood, Praganda, is most suitable for friendship, and his youthfulness, Kishore, is most suitable for conjugal love. Wonderful linguist, knows all different languages. So I'm sure that many of you know more than one language. Probably most people in this class know at least two, or maybe three. Maybe some of you know four or five or more languages. And you can switch. You can be talking in English to one person, and then switch to Hindi, and then switch to Marathi or Spanish or some other language. When Krishna doesn't have to switch, he can simultaneously speak to everyone in all languages, and he can even talk to the animals. Truthful. So many of us have some pride in our word of honor, that we keep our word of honor, we keep our vows. Krishna never breaks his promise. And an example is how he said he would make sure that Jarasandha was defeated, and he was. Pleasing talker. He can pacify even his enemy. Like even after he forgave Kaliya, and he still convinced him to leave the Yamuna. Fluent. Meaningful words with all politeness and good qualities. Every word contains volumes of meaning. One of the most wonderful things about Krishna's words and about the scriptures is that you always find so many meanings. We were talking about how the verse of Srila Rupa Goswami, you can translate in more than one way. There's so many different meanings, but very politely, very learned. So learned meaning both educated and moral. Prabhupada talks about how nowadays people separate academic learning from morality, that you can be very academically learned but not be very moral. So Krishna is both. He's learned not just in theory, but he's learned in terms of his behavior and his qualities. Some examples are studying with Sandipani Muni and how he perfectly reciprocates with everyone according to morality. Highly intelligent. So here again with Sandipani Muni, how once taking instructions, he immediately becomes perfect. He only has to hear it one time. Sometimes we have to hear something 100,000 times for 20 years before we understand it. Sometimes maybe many lifetimes. Krishna understands everything immediately. And how intelligent he was to deal with Kaliyavana, because by Kshatriya principles, he wasn't supposed to fight with Kaliyavana. But how was he going to kill him? So he arranged to draw Kaliyavana into the cave where Muchukunda was resting, where Muchukunda had this benediction that he could burn anyone to ashes with his vision. And that way, without either Muchukunda or himself touching Kaliyavana. So Krishna is very intelligent, and we see Krishna's intelligence in our own life many times. Sometimes we're like, what's going on in my life? What's Krishna doing? And then we realize how intelligent Krishna is in his dealings with us. So this is a wonderful example. If you have the study guide by Gauranga Darshan Prabhu on the Southern Ocean, which is very helpful, this is one place where I've told this to him, where his explanation of it needs editing for a second edition, that he didn't explain it uh, the way it should be explained. Just a little note there. So this is an instance of where Krishna told Radharani that he would come at a certain time, and he didn't. So he was gone for the whole night. He didn't come until the morning. And when he came, he must have come without some of his clothing. And so Srimati Radharani asks him, "Where are your clothes?" Maybe he was missing his chadar or something. Where are your clothes? Now she used the word vasa, which means your clothes or your home or a fragrance. So Krishna says, "Oh, my home is in your beautiful eyes." She said, "I didn't ask about where you lived. I asked about your clothes." And she used again the word vasa. And then Krishna used the word vasa to mean fragrance. He says, "I have this wonderful fragrance because I'm associated with you. I'm picking up your fragrance." And then Srimati Radharani gave up that tact. And then she said, then she said very directly, "Where did you spend the night?" And Krishna, using the rules of Sandhi, he combined the words differently to mean that instead of where did he spend the night, whether or not night had kidnapped him. And so he said, "How could night have kidnapped me?" And after this sort of repartee with Srimati Radharani, she just laughed and laughed and laughed. And at first she had been upset with him for not coming all night, but with this joking, and then she was laughed and she gave up her anger. So this is Krishna's genius, that he can have newer and newer arguments. You can never defeat him. Very artistic. Someone who talks and dresses himself very artistically. He composes songs. He dances. He speaks funny words. He plays on his flute, wears such nice garlands. And uh, it says that he has dressed himself in such an enchanting way as though he had defeated all kinds of players at the chessboard. So Krishna is the greatest artist. Of course, one of the main evidences of God is in all of the artistry we see in this world. You know, we're on, Prabhupada says, the lowest of the middle planets. And yet there is so much beauty on this planet. The sunrise, the sunset, the mountains, the oceans, the flowers, all the different kinds of birds. Bhagavatam says the birds are evidence of Krishna's artistry. I mean, there's just constantly, everywhere you look, and not only in visual artistry, there's so much musical artistry and fragrance artistry and cleverness. I mean, the beauty of each snowflake. There's so much evidence in the world of Krishna's artistry. Very clever, someone who can do various types of work at once. So many of us will multitask, right? We can, I think any mother has both taking care of the cooking and taking care of her children at the same time, uh, right? Or any of us who drive a car, we can drive a car and talk to our passenger at the same time, drive a car and listen to a lecture at the same time. We can take a shower and listen to a lecture at the same time. So all of us do some multitasking, yes. But Krishna is very clever at how many things he can multitask at. So he's composing nice songs about the cowherd boys, he's pleasing the cows, he's pleasing the gopis, and he's fighting with demons like Aristasura all at the same time. So that is very clever. And of course, Krishna is making sure that each of us, each of our billions of living entities, get our karma in some way, that each of us gets our personal karma. Plus, there's, of course, group karma, and all of that is integrated, and all of that is happening at the same time. So, how clever is that? And very expert, who can quickly execute a very difficult task. So, of course, it says Krishna is the intelligence of the intelligent. And so sometimes we're also manifest this ability. We have some very difficult tasks. We think it's going to take hours and hours and hours, and we're able to do it in 5 minutes. So Krishna is very expert in this. Some examples given by Srila Rupa Goswami is how he can cut to pieces all the weapons used by different fighters. Thinking about also like Lord Ramachandra when he was attacked in the forest by Kar and Dushana and Trisiris, and then standing alone, he had Lakshman take Sita to a mountain cave, and then just standing alone, he defeated 14,000 Rakshasas in a very short amount of time. Also, a very difficult task. He has all these thousands or millions or billions of gopis who want to dance with him. And so he expands himself and he's dancing with everybody simultaneously. What a solution to the problem. And grateful. Now, gratefulness is one of the 14 items of knowledge. The Panchatantra says that the worst person is an ungrateful person. And so this means someone who's there, you're aware. First, to be grateful, we have to be aware. If we're not even aware of what someone's doing for us, it's not going to be possible to be grateful. So it's a question of being conscious. Often we're unconscious. People are doing things for us all the time, and we don't even notice. So to be aware and to not forget to reciprocate. And an example is when Draupadi calls, "Hey Krishna, hey Govinda." And Jambavan had rendered so much service to the Lord in his form as Ramachandra. And Krishna, out of gratitude, married his daughter, Jambavati, and accepted Jambavan as his father-in-law. Very determined. One who fulfills his promises, which is related to truthfulness, but one who fulfills his promises in a way according to proper behavior. So Srila Rupa Goswami gives 3 examples: saving Draupadi from being insulted, freeing Arjuna from the attacks of enemies, and delivering the Parijata to Satyabhama. So all these promises were kept. Krishna was determined. A lot of times devotees ask, how can I be more determined? We can meditate on Krishna's nice quality of determination. An expert judge of time and circumstances. This is actually quite an important point. A lot of the statements of the scripture are time, place, and circumstance specific. A lot of the instructions of our acharyas, a lot of the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada says that it's required to keep the principles, but adjust according to time, place, and circumstance. So sometimes in the Shastra, sometimes from Guru, from our acharyas, they're giving some truth or some instruction that is true for everybody, always, in all circumstances. But most of the time, they're giving instructions that are circumstantial according to time, place, and circumstance. So here Krishna is exhibiting this. Srila Rupa Goswami gives the example, oh, this is the right time and place and circumstance to have a rasa dance. Such a nice example of Krishna being expert judge of time, place, and circumstance. Seeing by the authority of scriptures. So we mentioned this as important yesterday in terms of the Nectar devotion being authorized scripture, that Srila Rupa Goswami was, he quotes something from scripture for every single point of his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And Krishna himself, although he's the supreme authority, he doesn't need to do that. Still, he himself does that with the eyes of scripture. So Srila Rupa Goswami has this nice verse. He says, the eyes of scripture which belong to Krishna, the enemy of Kamsa, exist only to see the practical action in a given situation, and his lotus eyes exist only to bewilder the young women. And Srila Jiva Goswami writes a commentary, said this is made by someone in a joking mood. Krishna is pure. So 2 aspects of purity, that he can deliver someone who's impure, and everything he does is pure, even though Krishna's some of his actions may seem impure, like dancing with the gopis. Everything he does is pure, so he's never affected by impurity, even though sometimes it may appear that way, and he can purify anyone. Of course, an analogy is given with the sun, that the sun purifies dirty places, like places where there's stool and urine. but the sun never becomes impure. Self-control, the example given that the queens of Krishna, although the most beautiful women in creation, could not agitate him. He couldn't become disturbed. Steadfast. This is, of course, related to being determined, that he doesn't give up until he achieves his goal. He doesn't get discouraged. So determination in Rajagun is you're only feeling encouraged if you're being successful. Determination in Sattvagun is you're determined even in happiness and distress. Determination in Tamagun is you're only determined if everything's easy. Now, of course, sometimes we should actually stop working for a goal in the middle if we start to see that achieving that goal, something we thought was a worthy goal, but if we start seeing that achieving that goal will be harmful to ours or others' Krishna consciousness, or in some way that Krishna has shifted things. There is a time, to give up. There is a time not to fight. Like when Maharaj Parikshit heard that he was cursed, he could have counteracted the curse, but he didn't. And he said, this is a time just to accept. Okay, forbearing, tolerating all kinds of troubles, even though they appear to be unbearable, like getting the wood for his guru. Forgiving, the example of forgiving Shishupal. Now, eventually he did kill him, but he forgave him a lot and then liberated. Very grave. You don't always know what Krishna's thinking. Many times we're saying, Krishna, what are you thinking? But he's very grave. He's self-satisfied. We see in the world, right? The atheists can say there's no God because Krishna's so self-satisfied. He's happy to let other people take the credit for things, and he's not disturbed when people criticized him. Equilibrium, no attachment, no enemy, no envy. He'll reward his so-called enemy, like Vibhishan, and he'll punish his son, like Momasura, if necessary. He's not partial. Very magnanimous, very charitable. Krishna says even the great souls should give in charity, that everybody's purified by charity, and Krishna himself, he's not stingy, he's not envious. He's very religious. He follows the scripture to set an example, and he teaches others. Also very religious. I was saying that the demigods were always coming to his sacrifices, and so their wives prayed for Lord Buddha to come. And Prabhupada says, why don't the demigods come now? And he said, because now hardly anyone is doing Vedic yajnas, so they're not going to bother to come. Of course, sometimes they come when we do the Sankirtan yajnas. Okay, going on to chapter 22. Now, explaining Krishna's qualities 31 through 64. Heroic. So, not one soldier of Krishna was hurt, and all of Jarasanda's army was defeated. Compassionate, as when Krishna releases all the kings imprisoned by Jarasandha. And therefore, Prabhupada says that we should offer obeisances to Krishna's compassionate nature in the form of Srimati Radharani. Of course, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna in this mood of compassion, and therefore Gauravani Pacharane, Srila Prabhupada, is the representative of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Respectful, showing respects to a brahmana, a guru, an old person, and Krishna is always respectful. It's also one of the qualities of Srimati Radharani. Very gentle. He's not arrogant. Even though he's the Supreme Lord, he always shows proper etiquette. Very liberal. This is not a political liberal. So Indra tried to kill everyone in Vrindavan, and still Krishna forgave him. Krishna thought about his service. Of course, we should not take advantage of this and sin on the strength of chanting, but Krishna is very extraordinary like this. Very extraordinary. very shy. Such a sweet story of how Krishna started looking at the gopis, and so his hands started to shake. And then the older men, they thought, oh no, Krishna's going to drop in the mountain. And uh, and then and Balaram started laughing, and Krishna thought Balaram was laughing because he knew that he was looking at the gopis. So then Krishna became embarrassed. Protecting the surrendered souls. Here we have pictures of Ram with Babishan. That even Krishna's enemies know that Krishna will protect them. Very happy. Krishna has all of the facilities for happiness. Well-wisher of devotees. If someone just offers him a little water and tulsi, then Krishna will sell himself to that devotee, controlled by love, agreeing for his mother to tie him up, giving so much to Sudama Vipra, all auspicious. That everything he does is full of auspiciousness. Bhakti itself, of course, is all auspicious. Most powerful. He puts his enemies into calamities. Here we have Ram and Ravana, the Singadev, Hiranyakashipu, Varaha, and Hiranyaka, and Parasuram. All famous. And here is poetry. Is famous like moonshine. It turned Balaram's clothes white. It turned the river into Yamuna into milk. And the gopi started to turn into butter. Popular. When Krishna was fighting with the wrestlers, he was very popular with everyone. And he's partial to his devotees, although he's equipoise. If someone loves him, he reciprocates with them. Very attractive to all women, to the queens, to the gopis, all worshipable. So even the other Vishnu forms, we have the story of Mahavishnu worshiping him, Lord Balaram worships him, all opulent. He has all of the 6 types of wealth in fullness. And there's a description of the wealth of Vrindavan. All honorable. I love this story. How the doorkeepers tell the demigods, Krishna's busy. He can't see you today. It's going to be a long wait. Say your prayers silently. Whenever we have to wait for somebody, we can remember this quality of Krishna. Anyone who makes others wait is in this category. Supreme controller. Independent. He can make whatever decision he wants, and nobody can neglect his orders. So he was independent. He said, all right, I'm going to put the marks of my feet on the heads of Kaliya. And he tells Brahman Shiva to create and destroy. All right. So now we have additional qualities. Which we're not going to discuss. But these additional qualities are also mentioned by Srila Rupa Goswami. Actually, of course, the Lord has unlimited qualities. Okay, qualities that are also manifest by Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, changeless. When Krishna appears in this world, he appears in his original form. And if the devotees are not affected by Maya, how is Krishna going to be? Knows everything. Again, this is, the jivas don't have this quality. Even someone like Narada Muni doesn't know everything. Even Yamaraj doesn't know everything. And the example is when Krishna had ate from Draupadi's pot. Ever fresh. And we experience this, of course, reading the Shastras or being in a kirtan. It's the same thing over and over, but always fresh. Satchidananda Vigraha, his form is eternal, full of bliss and full of knowledge. He doesn't have anything to learn from anybody, and he's the one giving pleasure to everyone. All mystic perfections, which are described, of course, in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam. Qualities that Narayana has. Only Krishna and Narayan manifest these inconceivable potencies. So a liberated jiva can expand themselves into many forms, as we mentioned yesterday, but only Vishnu Tattva expands into every atom. Inconceivable potencies, talking to Kunti and entering into Uttara's room, bewildering Shiva and Brahma, defeating Lord Brahma, defeating Indra over the Parijata flowers, uh, delivering the dead son of his teacher, generating innumerable universes out of his body. We have, franchises. There's some Best Buy in every city, but Krishna has universes coming from his body, the source of all incarnations, so many incarnations like waves of the ocean, liberating his enemies that he kills. And any form of the Lord can give liberation, but Krishna always does this. Sometimes this liberation takes some time to mature over several lifetimes. Attracting liberated souls like Sukadeva Goswami and the four Kumaras who aren't attracted to anything material, yet they're attracted to Krishna. Then qualities that only Krishna manifests, his Lila Madhuryam, the sweetness of his pastimes. Many Vishnu forms have sweet pastimes, but Krishna's are the sweetest. Many forms have loving devotees, but Krishna has the greatest variety of rasa in his loving devotees. Krishna's all-attractive flute. Krishna's all-attractive flute, right? It goes through the covering of the universe. It stops Lord Shiva from playing his din-din drum, right? Great sages like the four Kumaras become bewildered in their meditation. And Anantadev, hearing the flute, is always swaying here and there. So people become so bewildered by musicians, right? How much bewildered they are by Krishna. And his beauty, Krishna illuminates his ornaments. Okay, we're going to have a 10-minute breakout group. And here I'd like everybody to talk about at least one of these qualities. Everyone should have a list of 5 that act as a vibhava, alambana vishaya for us. Which of these qualities of Krishna inspires you in your bhakti? Now we just have 10 minutes and there's 4 or 5 people in a room. So that means each person has about 2 minutes maximum. Hare Krishna, I hope you had a good break. Now we're going to look at chapter 23, Krishna's personality. So a summary is we're continuing. We're still in the Vibhava Vishaya. Krishna is the object. Srila Rupa Goswami explains that Krishna manifests his sweetly stimulating qualities in 3 gradations of fullness. When he's in Goloka, his transcendental qualities are exhibited as most perfect. When he's in Dwarka, very perfect, and Mathura as perfect, and 4 personality traits. So his beauty, the sweetness of his form, it's perfect in Dwarka, more perfect in Mathura, and most perfect in Vraja. Of course, it's a little funny because in English, the word perfect, you can't be more perfect. You can't be more perfect or most perfect. So Krishna can be perfect and also more perfect. So here, this is from Madhya 2400. When Krishna does not manifest all of his qualities, he's called complete. When his qualities are manifested but not fully, he's called more complete. When he manifests all of his qualities fully, he's called most complete. So again, the English word complete is just complete. There's no gradations of perfect. There's no gradations of complete. But with Krishna, there's gradations of he's perfect. He's completely perfect, but he can become even more perfect. He can become the most perfect. And of course, that is always also expanding. All right. Now, in addition to being impelled to Krishna by his qualities, one can be impelled by his personality. So we're going to have a breakout session after this section, and where each of us will be discussing which of these four we particularly find attractive, or how you find each of these four attractive. So either which one or two of them you particularly like, or why you particularly like all four of them. Now, these are contradictory. So when we teach about Varnashram, one of the things that we emphasize is that everyone is only in one Varna, and people sometimes argue about that. The volume is very low. I don't know what to do. I have an external mic, which is on,
To
and
us, it is okay, Mother.
huh?
To us, it is okay.
Okay, I mean, I have a good quality external mic that's on. Okay, so maybe it's something on your end. Okay, I have. All right, so we'll just go on. So we talk about how everybody just has one Varna because if you had more than one, it would be opposing. You'd be opposing yourself internally. Now, these four personalities of Krishna don't coexist in one person, but they can coexist in him. So these are the four heroes. Remember, this is based on Bharat Muni. So these are the four heroes that will be in any kind of drama. The Dhirodata, Dhiralalita, Dhiraprasanta, and Dhirodhata. Uh, and Krishna has all four of them. So again, I'd like you to meditate on either how you find each of these four attractive or which you specifically find attractive. Okay, so the Dhirodata is the noble hero. Dhiralalita, the romantic and fun-loving. Dhiraprasanta, the peaceful gentleman. Dhirodhata, the haughty bad boy, so-called bad boy. So the noble hero, the party boy, the romantic, fun-loving party boy. Dhiraprasanta is the peaceful gentleman. Dhirodhata is the haughty bad boy. And if you think about any kind of drama, you know, books, movies, theaters about fictional or non-fictional persons, they're always in one of these categories. The hero's always in one of these categories. Either they're very noble, they're a noble hero. I guess Superman would be like that. A party boy, I can't think of any offhand. A gentleman, someone a peaceful gentleman, and a bad boy. So maybe James Bond is somebody like that. So somebody who's, or the government recruits a criminal to fight the other criminals. So they're the bad boy. All right. So Srila Goswami goes more in depth about these four personality types in the Ujjwala Nilamani, where he says they have as Pati and Upapati. So Krishna just has these four personality types as both the unmarried lover of the gopis and the married husband of the queens. And this is again on the Vibhava Alambana Vishaya, and combining Srila Rupa Goswami and Ujjwala Mani. He combines the four types of personality with Anukul, Dakin, Satta, and Drista, favorable, compliant, deceitful, and impudent, with the perfect, more perfect, and most perfect, to have 96 types of Krishna. Actually, Srila Sanatana Goswami, in his commentary in a verse in the 13th chapter of the 10th canto, says Krishna has innumerable qualities, and there are innumerable jivas, and each jiva is especially attracted to one quality. Okay, so looking at Dhirodhata. Looking at Dhirodhata. So from the 64 qualities, being grave, gentle, forgiving, merciful, compassionate, determined, humble, shy, qualified, expert, chivalrous, and physically attractive, are specifically related to Dhirodhata. And Dhirodhata is exemplified when Krishna holds up Govardhan Hill. So his power to obscure others' pride, deliver those in suffering, being merciful, determined in his vows. These are all qualities of the Govardhan Lila that are related to the 64 qualities, being kind in spite of being offended, controlled by praise, inscrutable nature are all there in the Govardhan Lila. Dhiradatta is also evident when Krishna sends Putana back to Godhead. When Lord Chaitanya tells Vallabhabhata that one who disobeys the Guru is a prostitute, with Lord Brahma after the Vimohana Lila. So we can think of this quality of Krishna as like the ideal heroic person. The ideal heroic person. Lord Ramachandra is given as an example of someone who personifies Dhirodata. They're always religious, always righteous, very handsome, right? They always win, they defeat all their enemies, and they do it in a righteous, wonderful way, always upholding the codes of religion, that kind of person. Okay, then you have Dhira Lalita. Now, Dhira Lalita is not seen in any other Vishnu form. So, Dhirodata, the other ones are Dhirodata, Dhira Prasanta, and Dhirodata, but Dhira Lalita is only Krishna. You will not find, like Matsya Avatar, Kurma Avatar, and Nrsimha. They're not displaying this. This is the party boy, the fun guy. Always funny, always youthful, joking, doesn't have any anxieties, very domesticated, submissive to his lover. This dear Lalita is very related to the fact that Krishna likes to be a prince rather than a king. So in Vaikuntha, in Ayodhya, he's a king. But in Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka, he's not. He's a prince. Ugrasena is the king, or Nanda Maharaj is in charge, and the prince, so the prince has all the royal facilities, but he doesn't have all the royal responsibilities. So he has, just like when Prabhupada talks about the four persons that were seen by the saintly man, and the saintly man said to the prince, you should just keep living and not die, because you're having all this enjoyment, and in your next life you're going to have to pay. So Krishna as the prince is just enjoying. It's just constantly having a party. So this is also the hero, the funny hero. I guess in a lot of like comedy plays and movies, the hero is like this, just always having a good time. So here's an example that Srila Rupa Goswami gives, that Radharani's with her friends in a garden, and that Krishna starts talking about their intimate pastimes in front of her friends. That embarrasses her. And while she's embarrassed, then Krishna starts drawing pictures on her. Oh, he's just such a character, right? And the personality who exemplifies dear Lalita is Cupid, Pradyumna. So I guess you could say that incarnation of Krishna is dear Lalita because he's Pradyumna. Okay, dear Prasanta. This is the gentleman. This is the gentleman. Peaceful, forbearing, considerate, and obliging. So this is also a kind of hero who's just a gentleman. Yeah, Prasanta means peaceful. The husband who says, okay, I'll also do the dishes and I'll take care of the children. And this is the dear Prasanta mood. I'll open the door for you. Right, so this is exemplified that Krishna appeared as the best of Brahmanas. He was Arjuna's chariot driver, being a servant like this, following along with the Pandavas, serving them, tolerating suffering, discussing Dharma with Yudhisthira. So the helpful gentleman. And Yudhisthira also exemplifies this quality of Dhira Prasanta. Now, we may be surprised that Krishna also has this Dhiro Datta. He also has a Dhiro Datta. So how is it that Krishna has a Dhiro Datta? So the Dhiro Datta This is a little different, right? Envious, proud, easily angered, restless. So these sound like faults, but they are appropriate to different pastimes. And again, this is also a kind of hero. This is the bad boy. This is the vigilante hero. He doesn't work for the government or the police force. He just goes out and maybe he's riding on a motorcycle kind of thing. So some examples when Krishna advised Kalyavana that he should go find some dark well for his residence because there's a black snake named Krishna who's very eager to devour all sorts of sinful frogs. He's insulting. He's insulting Varaha when he insults Hiranyaka. Also, when Krishna is talking to the messengers of Pundraka, he's also like this, very haughty and insulting. Yeah. And Bhima is given as this example of a Dhiro Dhata. Okay, so we're going to have a 10-minute breakout room, again, to discuss your favorite among Krishna's personal qualities. And so just look at this for a minute. See. Okay, 10 minutes. Okay, I hope you found that enlivening. And apparently the Lord has contradictions, but he can resolve them completely. He can resolve them completely. So that's true not only with personality, but also with so-called faults. And again, as we go through these faults, please mute yourself. As we go through these faults, we're going to see that Srila Jiva Goswami says that actually Krishna has 16 of them in perfection. So these are the faults that Krishna does not have: bewilderment, sleep, error, material attachment without prema, material lust which brings suffering, fickleness, intoxication, envy, violence, exhaustion, toil, lying, anger, hankering, worry, absorption in worldly affairs, prejudice, and dependency on others. So the Lord's quality is absolutely free from these discrepancies. But sometimes Kripa Shakti arranges the display of some of these in the dealings of Krishna and Ramachandra, and then the devotees perceive them. But then they become magnificent. So this is from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Srila Jiva Goswami's Priti Sandarbha, 117 to 144, gives an elaborate description of the faults as good qualities. So if you want to go find an elaborate description, you can go there. And his commentary, we're going to be referring to his commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 21248. So all the slides in this section are from this commentary. And again, please think of which of these attract you. We're going to have a breakout room after this. Please think of which of these you find. Again, this is all about Vibhava, right? This is Vibhava, Alambana, Vishaya, what stimulates us in our service. So how can lamentation, bewilderment, material affection, or fear, all born out of ignorance, be ascribed to the infinite Supreme Lord, whose perception, knowledge, and power are all similarly infinite, from 1077:31. But they're considered good qualities in relation to the devotee's prema. Now, Srila Jiva Goswami is going to go through them. Bewilderment. When Krishna couldn't find the calves, he leaves his boys to look for the calves. And then he comes back, he couldn't see the cowherd boys. And he's looking for them like he's bewildered. How charming. This is from 10:13:16. From 10:15:16, again, these are all quoted by Srila Jiva Goswami. Sleep, exhaustion, and toil. Sometimes Krishna got tired from fighting, lay down at the base of a tree, resting on a bed of twigs and buds, using the lap of the cowherd boys as a pillow. So gets tired from his hard work and he's resting. From 10:8:22, error. So how Krishna and Balaram were crawling in the mud, and then they would follow people, thinking they were their mothers, and grab onto them, and then they weren't really their mothers. and they got scared and went to their real mothers. You see ordinary children do this all the time. Little children, they'll grab onto some woman's, clothing, thinking it's their mother, and when that person turns around and it's not their mother, they cry. So Krishna did this, a charming behavior of error. Material attachment. So this one, Srila Jiva Goswami says this doesn't exist. Krishna has no attachment without prema. So this is a bad quality that does not exist in Krishna in any kind of form. Material lust that brings grief does not exist in Krishna in any form. In Krishna, he's full of love. He's not exploitive. Krishna is not exploitive. Fickleness. Okay, this appears to be opposite to Krishna's qualities of steadiness and determination. But here's Krishna releases the calves before the milking time. When the master of the house gets angry, he just smiles. Sometimes he's stealing curd, butter, and milk. When the monkeys come, he gives it to them. And then when the monkeys are full, then he breaks the pots. And if he doesn't get any opportunity to steal, he gets angry at the family. And then he'll pinch the children. And when they start crying, he goes away. So, of course, this is fickleness, which is normally unattractive, but in little Krishna, it's very charming. Intoxication. So Krishna greets his well-wishing friends with his eyes rolling slightly in intoxication. This is from 10:35:24. Seemingly envy. This is from 10:25:16. By my mystic power, I will counteract Indra. I'm going to destroy his pride. I'm going to show that I'm better than him. So generally that's envy, if I'm trying to show that I'm better than someone else. But of course in Krishna, he is actually better than everybody else. So it's not envy. Violence, Srila Jiva Goswami just says, there's lots and lots and lots of examples of Krishna being apparently violent. Lying, from 10:8:35. My dear mother, I didn't eat dirt. All my friends are liars. You can look in my mouth. Another example of lying is when Krishna and the Pandavas disguise themselves as brahmanas to go to Jarasandha. Srila Jiva Goswami says there's lots of examples of anger. Lots of examples of anger. Krishna picking up the wheel with Bhima, Mahaprabhu with Jagai and Madai, Krishna with Kamsa. Hankering. And we know that the enlightened souls, Nasochati Nakanchati, they have no hankering. But it said while Mother Yasoda was churning butter, Krishna was hankering to drink the milk of her breast. And so he stopped her from churning. You have to feed me. Worry. Vaikunta. There's no anxiety. There's no anxiety. But yet, when Krishna couldn't find the boys and calves, he was worried. Where are my friends? To be absorbed in the world. So Krishna is absorbed in the world in that he wants to maintain the universe. He wants to maintain Lord Brahma. He cares about the world. He's not uncaring, although he doesn't have worldly anxieties. Being prejudiced. So Krishna doesn't envy anyone. He's not partial to anyone. But in Bhagavad Gita 9:29, it's stated that Krishna is partial to his devotees. And it is not really partiality. It's just normal reciprocation. Being dependent on others. So this is from Bhagavatam 9:463. I'm completely under the control of my devotees. Because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires, I sit within the core of my heart. What to speak of my devotees, even those who are devotees of my devotees are very dear to me. So of course Krishna is not really dependent on anyone in tattva, but he has this mood of dependence on his devotees. So lamentation, bewilderment, material affection, and fear, when they originate from ignorance, are not in the Lord. But when they originate from knowledge, they actually are in the Lord for his playfulness. So the qualities originating from knowledge, such as bewilderment arising from prema, are also in the devotees. So when the gopis become bewildered and enact the pastimes of the Lord, that kind of bewilderment coming from love, Krishna tries to milk a bull. Radharani tries to churn an empty pot. Right? Here's an example. When Maharaj Pariksit inquired from Sukadev Goswami immediately, remembering subject matters about Krishna, lost contact with his senses and with great difficulty brought them back. So he was bewildered in love. Okay, chapter 24. Srila Goswami describes the transcendental beauties and qualities of the Lord as decorated, enjoying, pleasing, dependable, steady, and predominating, meticulous dresser, magnanimous personalities. So these are some additional qualities. So they were, in one sense, they were already discussed in the 64, but Srila Rupa Goswami wants to give them special attention. Decorated, merciful toward the unfortunate, very powerful, superior, chivalrous, enthusiastic, expert, and truthful. Decorated. So here's Srila Rupa Goswami's example. He always gives an example, right? When Krishna thought first, let me punish Indra. And then, oh, he's so insignificant. Why bother punishing him? I'll just protect my devotees by lifting Govardhan Hill. Always enjoying. So when Krishna's at the sacrificial arena of Kamsa, he's always enjoying, even though he's fighting. Pleasing. So one day while Krishna was awaiting Radharani, he made a garland of kadamba flowers. Unfortunately, my picture shows him making a garland of lotus flowers rather than kadamba flowers. And when Radharani came, he glanced at her very sweetly, very dependable. This is one I really like. I asked you to find some favorites to talk about. This is one of my favorites, that the demons were confident that Krishna wouldn't attack them without cause. They said, as long as we follow the laws of karma, Krishna will protect us. The demigods, even though there's demons, we're going to sport because Krishna's going to take care of us. And that people who haven't done all the Vedic rituals are confident that Krishna just wants love and devotion. I really like that one. Steady. So even when Krishna's fighting, Shiva and Durga get furious at him, he's not disturbed, he stays steady. Predominating, he can affect everybody, and he's not going to tolerate being neglected. When Kamsa starts insulting Nanda Maharaj and Vasudev, and Krishna's like, hey, I'm going to take care of this. Meticulous dresser. This is also one that I really, really like. So in this one, Krishna is described both that he dresses in a very attractive way and that he likes to dress up the gopis in a very attractive way. So I really like this one. And I really like how Krishna is very attentive, before jumping in the Jamuna to defeat Kaliya. He's adjusting his turban and so forth. Magnanimous, that Krishna is always prepared to give himself to everyone, even who's not a devotee. Lord Chaitanya is happy to give himself. Dependent, magnanimous, that he depends on Gargarushi for instruction, depends on Satyaki for military, for good counsel on Uddhava. All right. So breakout room on the 16 faults, so-called faults, and 8 more qualities. So again, you're going to have 10 minutes. And if everybody could discuss those which they find particularly inspiring. Again, this is what inspires us in our devotion. So again, please mute. These are the 5 components of rasa. And we've been looking today at the vibhava, alambana, vishaya, Krishna as one of the main stimulants of rasa. So we have just about 3 minutes. Anybody have any general questions that they would like to, or discussions that they would like to bring up? Raise your hand, put something in the chat. We have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions or discussions. Yes, Narad Rishi.
Hare Krishna. In the when earlier on when we were seeing the highly intelligent quality and the example is given of the killing of Kalayavana, um, it's funny, a bit peculiar that I mean, I understand how he structured the whole thing, as I explained there, and Muchukunda to burn him to ashes, but he didn't get to kill Kalayavana, and so he didn't get liberation. It seemed
Correct.
to like he didn't show much like compassion or auspiciousness or being liberal about it. Is there something there that
Mm.
can be?
Obviously, he didn't think that that particular jiva should be liberated at that time. That wasn't what he felt would be best for that jiva. Krishna reciprocates with everyone's desires, you know. We have a question in the chat. Lying towards Jarasandhar enlightened me. So when Krishna went with Bhima and Arjuna to fight with Jarasandha, they lied about being Kshatriyas. They pretended to be Brahmanas. So that for a little while, they were honest after a little while, but they lied at first so that Jarasandhar would give them charity, because Kshatriyas aren't supposed to ask for charity. Because he would have a time of day that he was giving charity to the Brahmanas. So they said, okay, we're Brahmanas, we've come to get charity. And then when Jarasandha, yes, I'll give you charity. And they said, well, the charity we want is a duel. And we are Kshatriyas. So we are you know us. We're Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhima. Anything else? Okay, tomorrow we'll be doing, Krishna willing, we'll be doing Vibhava, Alambana, Ashraya. Something very, very important to our spiritual progress, how we meditate on devotees. So thank you very much. Anything good in this presentation is from Srila Prabhupada, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami, all of our acharyas and the Shastra. Anything bad here is my error. Please either correct or ignore my errors and take the good. Thank you. Srila
Jai
Prabhupada
Krishna.
ki jai.